Rouse fly box. Today we're going to tie a variation of the foam butt caddis, for those of you who are familiar with that pattern. Only this is tied as an indicator. I tied this primarily to fish shallow water. I generally fish with a thingamabobber or a like type hard indicator for deep nymphing, large streamers, drifting large streamers under an indicator. Large heavy tandem rigs. If I got a dredge, I don't go with this pattern. But for shallow water, I had gone to the New Zealand indicator style rig the last couple years, and I thought I could improve it only based on the fact that I wanted an indicator that would also possibly bring some strikes. For those of you who have ever had a trout pull in a small thingamabobber or a corky or a foam indicator and run with it, I have many times. So you don't want to miss those strikes, and this solves that. I fish this primarily in shallow water, 4 to 6 foot deep, size 14 and below nymphs, speedheads. This pattern works very well, even in broken water. I start out with a size 10 caddis emerger hook, and I use the caddis emerger hook because I like the curvature of the bend. I tie my tippet. I generally fish with a uni-thread furled leader, 5.5 foot, and I tie my 4 to 6 foot tippet to my leader ring. What I do here is I'll tie a 12-inch piece of tippet to the ring, and then I'll tie this to that. I'll tie this indicator to that, and then I'll tie off the bend of the hook for my dropper. Just like you would for a tandem rig, but I'll fish it with about a 4 foot dropper off the bend of this hook. So I start with a size 10 caddis emerger hook and 6/0 thread. You can use any color. I'm using dark brown here, and form a base. And you're going to bring your thread back to about the point of the barb on this hook. Now, I've buried the point just for ease for the video for this. I generally don't bury the hook when I'm tying flies, but as the indicator, I'm pulling a lot of thread tight. I like to keep that point out of the way. Next, you're going to tie in your foam. Just like the foam butt caddis, I use thin razor foam, black, and I cut it to about 3/16 of an inch. Eighth inch for smaller, but I use about 3/16 of an inch for this. And I'm going to tie in, I'm going to extend the foam up to about 2 eye lengths behind the eye, but I'm going to tie in the back, and then I'm going to bring my thread forward and bind that foam down good and tight. Same way you would a regular foam butt caddis. And then I'm going to form a loop with my foam that's approximately gape length or gap length, whichever you prefer. The gap of the hook, the depth of the gap of the hook is about how large you're going to make your loop. And you're going to form that loop right at the point of the barb once more. And then bring your thread forward, binding down that foam to about the same location that you did the original tie-in. And then once more, bind that down. You want that extra layer because it adds the buoyancy, and this is all about buoyancy. And you're going to bind it down fairly well, but you're only getting it, you're tying it down to keep it in place. You're not tying it down to get a specific taper or anything like that. Next, you're going to take a size 12. This is a size 10 hook. I go one size lower, size 12 grizzly hackle. And I tie it in wet fly fashion, same as you would when you're palmering a stimulator. You want the curved side, shiny side forward. Tie it in on the side of the hook, and then one more time, bring your thread to the front. And then you're going to palmer your hackle. I make one full turn at the base when I start, and then I palmer it forward. Not one in front of the other like you would a dry fly, but not quite as open as you would like an elk hair caddis. split that difference. You want a fairly tight body because you want that hackle to help float this indicator. And you're going to bring it to the front to about 2 head lengths or eye lengths behind the eye. Once more. And you're going to bind that down. And make sure you're good and tight. At this point, I take my hook and I bury it back even farther to level it out. I do that with most of my patterns when I'm tying with emerger hooks. Keeps the thread from rolling off the front, causing heartache. Next, you're going to take a section of New Zealand wool from the indicator. You can use almost any wool. I've got some bulk bags that I purchased for the New Zealand indicator. This is the orange, and since I have it, I use it. It also floats well when treated, or not treated, but once you waterproof it, this floats exceptionally well. And you're going to bring it up. You're going to take about the size you would to make a normal indicator. Maybe it's loose, but approximately pencil width, and like a number 2 pencil width when not compressed. And you're going to loop it around your thread, then bring it down to the eye, and you're going to tie it in. Now I start it like that, but then I want to make sure I grab it because I want to keep it in position. So I'll build a head and pull that wool to where I can grab at least a little bit of it. Eventually it'll let me grab it. Build that head up to avoid the step. I want a tapered eye, and I want the wool away from the eye of the hook. See how I build that up, almost like a stimulator head. And then it's easier to thread with, work with when you're tying it on. Keeps all the materials away from the eye, and just seems to work better. And then with finish, trim your thread. If I capture any fibers that are just going to be in the way of the eye, I'll trim them off. And then what you're going to do is you're going to, just like you would for the indicator, I lift it up and I cut this about the same that you would, say, forming the wings for a wolf pattern of this size. It's about hook length or fly length maybe, and I'll bring it up and cut it off. And what that does is it gives it an automatic wing style split, like a dry fly split. So it does give the impression of wings, although you're fishing it as an indicator. It floats exceptionally well. Your foam butt will lay in the water. The hook presents the tippet naturally down, so it doesn't pull this fly under as bad. It's extremely buoyant. It's got hackle, the foam, and the wool indicator material. It's easy to see, and fish do take it. The foam butt indicator. If you're fishing shallow water, broken water, pocket water, treat this with some high float powder or just gel the wool, and this thing will float for hours. Great indicator that will also catch fish. I hope it adds to your box as it has mine. Good luck. See you on the water.